You know, something that's created a lot of water cooler chat here in Canada is when U.S. President-elect Donald Trump made reference to Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States and Justin Trudeau could become the governor. Trump was, of course, making reference to if Canada can handle the potential 25% tariffs, then maybe it's time to join the USA. Well, to chat about this in more detail is U.S. political reporter and host of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari, who joins us once again from Los Angeles. Lisa, I mean, we all know that Trump was just kidding around, but it does give me pause to think, you know, if that happened, that could open the door for many Canadians, including myself, in about 10 years to maybe retire to Hawaii or maybe even Florida, which is a little more affordable.
I like how you're thinking. What are the silver linings of this offer, and would it ever happen? I'd love to know your thoughts on having a Governor Trudeau and an American state of Canada. This is obviously all tongue in cheek, and it really stands to say that the deterrence is working. The fact that Trudeau would even talk to Trump, the fact that he even would be fearful of tariffs and therefore want to compromise or at least work together with the United States to not only stop the tariffs from coming in, but also to make our borders safe. That is the goal. And how both you and I know that if Trudeau plays along and really fortifies the border between the United States and Canada, we're both going to win, right? And you might get your retirement in Hawaii and you might not, but you want to live safely between now and then. And you have a long time to go. We hope you don't retire anytime soon. But the point being, Mexico, Canada have come to the table. We see the Iran regime, shaking in their boots. The deterrence is already working, and he's not yet in office. So it just goes to show that foreign policy across the board, how we deal with our friends, our enemies, our neighbors, it really matters. And the posture that the United States will take under a president-elect Trump is very different than the last 4 years that we've had. And that strength, that leadership and that strength will really benefit everyone. And I know it'll benefit Canada as well.
And you know, many government officials here in Canada have already said that we're going to be beefing up the borders with more RCMP officers, so it is coming, definitely. Lisa, the country of France is in political turmoil after the French Prime Minister was removed in a non-confidence vote. Like, that's pretty incredible if you think about it here. Now, with PM Michel Barnier and his cabinet being forced to step down, Lisa, that will make things pretty tough for French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, how did it actually come to this?
So this is all about meeting the financial goals of the EU. And obviously, France being in a very precarious situation right now. Look, everything's a mess in France. And I think it's time for a referendum. And that's really what's happening here. This non-confidence vote is exactly that, right? If we don't have confidence in our leadership, how can we go forward? And how can we meet those financial goals of the EU? So now Macron will be appointing another PM in the interim, and they will take it from there. But again, this really goes to a lot of what France is going through in terms of the turmoil, in terms of national security, in terms of what we're seeing on the streets unfold, and of course, their economy suffering as a result of all of that.
Now, still with political unrest, Lisa, South Korea's parliament introduced a motion this week to impeach their president Yoon over his controversial attempt to impose martial law. The opposition Democratic Party, which holds a majority, accused Yoon of creating confusion and fear. So what was the reason for imposing martial law in Asia's fourth largest economy?
Yeah, he just was very fearful of the opposition and what he calls a pro-North Korea faction within his country. So he got fearful. He shut everything down for about 6 hours. And of course, that cost him potentially his post. Look, this is something that we have seen before in South Korea. It's not a very stable country, even though it is the fourth largest economy, as you pointed out. We have seen this happen in the last 20 years or so, and it might happen again. So, it's interesting to watch the fallout from the North Korean muscle flexing, really, if nothing more, with these countries having that same dialogue within their countries. Who are you with? Are you with the enemy in the region, or do you stand with your own country? And I think because of that, we're seeing a lot of this kind of dictatorship coming out of South Korea because he wants to make his leadership ironclad. And I think now, if he is impeached, we're going to see more of this, balancing between the left and the right. But opposition factions are incredibly upset about the martial law. This is not what they want for their country, obviously, but Having North Korean factions come in, that's a whole other conversation. So they have to find this balance moving forward.
Lisa, you probably have seen the massive protests taking place in Georgia. I mean, the Associated Press has been live streaming a lot of it. Protesters shooting fireworks at armed police, and many are not happy as Georgia's opposition leader was dragged from his party office by the authorities. And the Prime Minister vowed that organizers of a week of pro-EU protests will face justice.
Yeah, 400 or more have been arrested, 100 being treated for injuries that took place during these protests that, as you said, were pro-EU. These protesters, the opposition leader being arrested, as you said, the protesters in favor of at least being in the conversation to join the EU, they are accusing the government of working together with Russian factions to pull away from that desire to join the EU. It's a mess. Now, with the opposition leader being arrested, this may just, kind of intensify the opposition's desire to be out onto the streets, and it will also intensify the crackdowns against the opposition and the protesters out on the streets, as we have seen in the last handful of days. So this is an ongoing situation now with the opposition leader being arrested. We shall see how this will unfold in the next 24 hours.
The Islamic Republic in Iran is threatening to leave the 1968 nuclear pact if threatened sanctions against Tehran move forward. Now, Lisa, something must be done, however, to stop the Islamic Republic from funding so many of these proxy wars against Israel.
Yes, and the Middle East envoy who has been appointed by Donald Trump has already come in saying that that is really the bottom line, to stop them from having a nuclear weapon and to stop them from funding all of these terror proxies. As we know, Donald Trump this week put out a very, very forceful statement about the hostages that Hamas is holding being freed before he gets into office, or quote, hell will have to be paid, or I forget the exact quote, but very forceful language to make sure that Hamas and of course their puppeteers, the Islamic Republic, understands that they will have to play along with what Donald Trump is demanding or face the consequences. Now, with the Islamic Republic threatening to pull out of these treaties, threatening not to comply with the IAEA, which is the UN nuclear arms eyes and ears, the inspectors that go in. Have they been complying all along? That's the question. And then what are these threats actually mean? They're empty threats, and it actually means that they are being reactive to a Donald Trump presidency, which will put them in a very, very uh, basically pressured and isolated situation, much more than the last 4 years, where they were able to collect oil money and to sell oil and to sell weapons and to collect north of $100 billion. And again, put that into their terror proxies. So here we go. It's going to be a very different 4 years going forward.
Reports have surfaced that Trump's FBI nominee was allegedly targeted in a Tehran-linked cyber attack. Tell me more about that.
Yes, yet another one. Look, I myself have been the target of one of these Islamic Republic hacking attacks, and it's not fun. But I will tell you this: this is a cowardly way for them to sit behind their computers wherever in the world that they hire their hacking professionals to cause some sort of terror. Right? This is us intimidating you, and this is us sending you a message. Well, it just goes to show that everyone who is working, whether it's in journalism or in the government or standing against an Islamic Republic that will be fortified like this, will have to just beef up their cybersecurity efforts, and to really, this will, as many people have tweeted, this will awaken a larger beast within the Trump government, so they can keep up with their shenanigans, and there will be more consequences to be paid.
Lisa, police in New York have released an image of a person of interest in the gunning down of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, Midtown Manhattan, 6:45 in the morning, this young CEO, hardly 50 years old, was entering a conference and was point blank shot to death. The gunman waiting there for him, and then for about 3 hours, as I understand, and then escaping on a city bike. The pictures that have been released thus far are so creepy, and he's smiling, and it's as if it's just another day. And it's interesting because obviously the question is now, what did this CEO No. What did he take to the grave with him, and who ordered him to be shot dead? Obviously, this man was waiting for him. This is not an area that, when you see crime at, 7 in the morning, this is actually in Midtown, right in front of the Hilton. Many people know this area very well. It's really chilling to think that, this is the way that we're going to silence people. If it's not through, media censorship and social media censorship, then we're going to kill them. And we know that our pharmaceutical, our insurance, our medical, the information that's coming out since COVID has been completely censored and completely controlled. But I mean, the DOJ did open up an investigation. What we're going to find out, who knows? If we're going to find out the full truth, who knows? Is this just lip service to those who are asking the questions like we are? Who knows?
So, Lisa, one of the last acts of Joe Biden as U.S. president is pardoning his son, Hunter Biden. Your thoughts on that?
Are we surprised? No, but was it the right thing to do? Well, for a president who has been saying no one is above the law, referring to his running mate at the time, Donald Trump, it's a bad look, right? So he went around saying no one is above the law, no one is above the law, referring to Donald Trump and his many lawsuits that were brought against him, and all of which fell flat. And then, obviously, pardoning his own son's case, which wouldn't have fallen flat. Look, for years, we were told that there's nothing in the laptops that was hidden, different charges that were brought against him, and now pardoning him, obviously showing his culpability, and then showing that, his last act is going to be, what, at least I'm going to pardon my son and at least do something positive for myself and my family moving forward. It was very obvious by the body language. Many people saying as a joke, but who knows what the truth is. Did Biden and his wife actually vote for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris? He looked just so upset at passing along the baton to Kamala Harris, not believing that she was a proper or fit candidate to run in his place, and now this. So I think it's something where he just is done. He's just done using the power that he has to do something positive for himself and his family, and leaving it at that. But not surprising.
Let's talk about the transfer of power when Donald Trump goes back into the White House in January. How smooth do you think that transition will really be between Biden and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump?
Yeah, it looks like President Biden is actually ready to concede to Donald Trump. I think what he was upset about is his own party throwing him under the bus, making him pull out of the race, and then replacing him with what he believed was not as strong a candidate. Look, at that point, did it look like he was going to win the race? No. That debate between himself and Donald Trump was very telling of his capabilities. At that point, the media came into play. Kamala Harris's honesty came into play. Why weren't Americans told the truth about his his just capabilities, his age, and all of that, how senile he was. And I think at this point he has sat down with Donald Trump. He has shaken hands with him. He looks as though he's going to be very cordial about it, and we just hope that his cabinet does the same. If you recall, the last Trump administration, one of the issues inside the cabinet was that transfer of power. The many holdovers who were working against Donald Trump, who were sabotaging, who were working against the country. And now this time around, I believe we have even more of that animosity, of that anti-Trump sentiment within the cabinets that Biden has filled. As we know, many of them have even resigned over Biden's policies not being left enough. That's what I worry about most. I hope that the Trump team goes in there and does a real thorough clean out job and doesn't leave any of the remnants to sabotage or to work against America. Look, right now, if the Americans are smart, they will use the next 4 years as a coming together, as a unity time. This guy can get the job done. When Trudeau sits down with him, when the Mexican president sits down with him, when Iran's regime is saying, you know what, we'll do this, and it's showing that deterrence works, that peace through strength works. So let's use that to create peace, not only abroad, but here in the United States as well.
So, Lisa, obviously in the United States, it's 2 terms and you're done as president. So who do you see as a potential successor to Donald Trump for the Republican Party?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, obviously, a lot of people are talking about J.D. Vance. If he shows up well for the next 4 years, he is very presidential, right? He speaks very well. He's very young. He obviously has the credentials. And who knows? I mean, it could be him. It could be someone else who works their way up to that potential role. But the bigger question is, who are the Democrats going to put up? I mean, they have really have got to get to task, and to really look at this past election as a referendum. What they need to do, they have to move away from the fringe parts of the party. It looks like they are moving more and more towards that leftist fringe part of the party, and that just does not resonate with America. And it's their choice whether to see this as a lesson or not, to lose the next election or not, or to bring it back to common sense American values. And that party or that candidate will win the next election as well.
Yeah, I'm going to get you to think outside the box for just a moment. How about a Hollywood star or starlet who threatened to leave the United States with Trump getting reelected, running for the Democratic Party? I mean, come on, we had Ronald Reagan, who's a Hollywood star. He became president. Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California. Donald Trump was the star of The Apprentice. Why not the Democrat side? Maybe get a Hollywood like Robert De Niro,
Maybe
run for the Democrat.
yeah, or maybe somebody who threatened to escape to Canada. Canada now becomes the 51st state. You can have someone from Canada now run for president. So it all works out. Look, it would make sense to have candidates now come from outside the box. I think Americans resonate with that. We want to kind of have an after party type of government now where people are not beholden to their political party, but have actual good ideas. We saw Vivek, who came from outside. We saw Elon Musk now join the government because he has good ideas. He's an ideas guy. It doesn't matter what party he belongs to. He's an ideas guy. And I think that to your point, Hal, it's very possible to get, whether it's a celebrity or a CEO or somebody who just thinks outside the box, to come in and say, I know how to save companies because that's what I do. I'm about to save the United States. And I think that resonates very well with Americans right now who want a better economy, who want safer borders, who want to do better in stopping these wars. I think that's where we are headed, rather than somebody who's had tunnel vision for the last 20 years working in government and just really buckling down on what happens in Washington, D.C., and not understanding what people in Alabama or Texas or New York or wherever else are dealing with. So we shall see.
Absolutely. U.S. political correspondent and host of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari, thanks again for joining us today from Los Angeles.
My pleasure.